I'm titling this one Nazis in Phoenix. That's more of a clickbait type thing. Now, I don't know if these guys were Nazis or not. Well, Nazi is a political party, like Republican or Democrat or AFD. I have no idea if these guys were card-carrying Nazis, but I know they were Kriegsmariners or, German sailors, in World War II. But anyway, they were held at this camp in East Phoenix. Now, I was watching Sidetrack Adventures video. This video is from about 4 years ago. I had no idea he made this. I just randomly popped up here on YouTube and was watching it. Now, I thought this camp was over maybe like Southeast Valley, but it was actually in Phoenix. Now, apparently most of the camp is gone. It's all housing and stuff like that. But there are a few monuments out there to where the camp was. And like in January of 1945, these guys had tunneled their way out, and they had either stolen a couple rafts or actually made a couple of rafts, depending upon which story you want to listen to. Now, if you care to search here on the internet, do a web search on Gila River boatmen. Gila River boatman, like that, this story will come up. It's an obscure part of Arizona history and one I've always found interesting. Now, let me give you a brief story. These guys tunneled their way out. One of the guys had seen a map of the valley. He'd seen the Gila River. It ran into the Colorado, and the Colorado ran down to Mexico. Now, these guys were going to march out across the desert with their two rafts, float down the Gila River into the Colorado. Then they had plans to either go into Mexico and ask for political asylum, because I don't know if Mexico was a neutral country, an access country, but they could ask for political asylum in Mexico or float down into the Pacific, and then try to flag down a submarine. I think their chances would probably be a lot better in Mexico than to try to signal a submarine into. Now, if they had a radio, it'd be a little bit different. But anyway, these guys, well, they marched out the desert for a handful of days, and eventually come to the Gila River, and it was dry. There's no water in the Gila River, so they had to wait. One guy, he'd made his way, back into Phoenix, and most of them had just surrendered because they had a bunch of FBI and police looking for them, and they eventually surrendered to them without incident. And one guy, the last holdout, he'd actually got a month. I don't know quite how he was surviving for food. I think he made his way to a motel in Phoenix, and one of the operators picked up. He could speak English, but he had a pretty thick accent. And the guy kind of said, "Well, this is kind of strange. I'm gonna just see who this guy is." And I think they figured out who he was and just took him into custody and took him back to camp. They said they gave him bread and water for months to kind of punish him for their escape. They didn't really want to be real mean with him. These guys kind of figured they were going to be executed for their escape, and of course they weren't. There's another story that Steve from Sidetrack Adventures talks about. There was one guy was a German POW from it that was held in an eastern U.S. The East Coast up there, and he had turned American informant. Turned in some of his fellow soldiers or sailors, and of course they had to reassign him. So they didn't know nobody there where he was, and he got assigned to this POW camp in Phoenix. Of course, some of these guys recognized him, and a handful of these guys killed this guy. So, of course, when they figured, when the American authorities figured out who had killed this guy, they put these guys on trial and actually executed them for the crime. So, interesting bits of 1940s Arizona history. I said sometime when I'm in that part of Phoenix, I'm going to get down to. I'm not going to tell you where that's at. If it's easy to find if you just do a very brief bit of internet legwork or finger work on your phone or whatever you want to refer to it. But so next time I've actually done work around that area. I just didn't know that park was in that area. Like I said, most of the camp is gone. Like I said, houses in and out have been for many years. But there's supposed to be some type of monument down there to what was there in the 1940s. There's I think there's some remnants of some of the old Japanese, both POW camps and something. I regret that a few of my fellow American citizens from the 1940s had done. They locked up, American-born of Japanese descent individuals. They blocked them in. If you don't, if you've never heard of this, they took a bunch of Japanese individuals that have been American citizens. Some of them were actually born in the United States and consider themselves Americans. They had locked them up in German and Japanese in internment camps. A very very sad part of American history in my belief. I don't. I wish we hadn't done that. I'll say it that way. I wish that part of history hadn't turned out that way, but it's history. It's past. It's already happened. Okay, let's keep life interesting. Love you. Bye bye.